there. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining us for Want to Deliver Better Customer Service. Put your coworkers first. My name is Emily Sandilands. I am Zingerman's community builder. I am going to be your host today. I am thrilled to be joined by Joni Hales, one of our fabulous trainers. Hi, Joni.
Hi.
We are also joined behind the scenes by Mara Ferguson. She also works on our team. She's going to be monitoring the chat with me today. So if you have any questions or anything you'd like to say, go ahead and you can throw it in the chat by clicking the chat button at the bottom of your Zoom screen there. Or if you have questions, you can also submit them in the Q&A box down there, also at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We are coming to you live from all over Ann Arbor, from our living rooms and our sunrooms. We would love to hear where you're tuning in from. So if you want to shoot your location there into the chat, we would love to do a little roll call. We are going to be presenting today for about 40 to 45 minutes. Oh, look, we have some, oh, the UK. Okay, we've got Wisconsin, Virginia. Welcome everyone. Brazil. Oh, wow, this is really exciting. We're going to be presenting today. I know, for about 40 to 45 minutes. We're going to leave about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of today's webinar for Q&A. Again, if you have any questions, shoot them in that Q&A at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We're going to try to get to as many as we can. If we don't get to your question today, we will get back to you with answers over email in the days to come. We are recording today's session, so we will have that available both on our website, and we will be sending over the recording to you via email in the days to come. I think that's it as far as housekeeping goes. I think we're ready to do this, Joni. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. My name is Joni Hales. I'm a trainer at Zingtrain. I have worked at Zingerman's for just over 17 years, 13 of those years being in a management and leadership role at Zingerman's Roadhouse. I am really excited to be here today talking with all of you. I saw lots of friendly names pop up in the chat, so welcome to all of you, whether I know you personally or not. I'm excited to be here to talk about giving great service internally to your coworkers and to your team. I think more than ever, we all know how important service is to our customers. Many of us are redefining our businesses. We're adding new services and products to meet the demands. We're changing the business as we used to know it, most with the focus of how we can continue to deliver a really great experience to our customers, which is great. We want our customers to keep coming back. We want them to keep choosing us. But I think all too often businesses forget that one of their most important customers is their staff, their team, their coworkers. Without delivering really great service to one another in the business, we're not giving ourselves a really great chance to give continued great service to our external customers. So I want to share today a few tools that really help us in delivering a really great, consistent experience to the people that we work with. I want to start with maybe one of my most favorite statements and maybe one of the most powerful statements I've ever heard about the role of internal service. And it comes from Paul Saginaw. He is one of the co-founders of Zingerman's Delicatessen back in 1982. And he says that the service that our staff give to our customers will never be better than the service that we give to our staff. And I just want you to think about that. Like, we can't reasonably expect anyone to give better service to anyone else than we give to them. And in this quote, I mean, Paul says better than we as leadership give to our staff. I want to broaden that definition of leadership. I think most organizations consider leadership to be the management team or to be the owners. At Zingerman's, our leadership approach is that everyone is a leader, no matter any formal authority that they may or may not have. And that as all of us being leaders, we are all setting the tone collectively. So when Paul says this, that we, the leadership, he truly is talking about all of us. So these tools that we're going to talk about today, they don't apply only to our formal leaders that have a formal authority like a manager, but they really do work for everyone. But this will really be kind of the tone throughout this webinar, is that the service we give to our staff, it will never be better than the service that we're giving to the people we work with. So definitely keep that in mind. I want to give you a little bit of background on our leadership approach. It's not the topic of this webinar, but I think it gives good context. We've based our approach on the concept of servant leadership. Many of you may have heard of this before. The basic belief of servant leadership is that our job as leaders, which again is all of us, we are here first and foremost to serve our organizations, that we're here to give really great service to the people we are around, and that we put the needs of the organization before any one individual's own needs. And to those who already think this way, which is probably a lot of us on here, I think this might sound obvious, but in fact, I think a lot of traditional organizations, the service flows in the other direction, that the rest of the organization exists primarily to serve to the needs of the people who work there. But in a servant-led world, we really do the opposite. So instead of it being just about the boss, servant leadership is about success for everyone involved. And so what you see on this slide, and again, not what we're going to be covering in total today, this is how Zingerman's has turned the theory of servant leadership and put it into the day-to-day responsibilities for everyone in our organization to follow. Specifically today, we're going to talk about the second responsibility, to give great service to the staff and to one another, which to us means giving great service and certainly prioritizing the people we work with, but it's also how we teach people how to give great service to one another. And a really key thing to emphasize is how we teach how to give great service internally. It isn't enough to tell employees to treat each other as customers and then expect people to just do it. We certainly tried that in the past, and everyone has their own definition of what it is, and everyone gives a different level of service. We need to be really clear about what those expectations are and share the tools to be able to do it. So let's dive in. I want to start with our system for giving great service. Again, as this whole webinar is about, it is an expectation that we are going to give great service to the people that we work with, which means that we use this service recipe and the one we're going to talk about next with our teams. These are how we have really defined what giving great service looks like to the people we work with. And if you've taken our service workshop in the past, some of these will look familiar to you, but I really want to focus more on how we use them with each other. So the first step, or our 3 steps, are to figure out what the customer wants, in this case, our coworkers. We want to get it for them accurately, politely, and enthusiastically, and then we want to go the extra mile. So this first step is to figure out what your coworkers want. We need to understand what our coworkers, what our employees want from their workplace. Each employee, I believe, likely wants a different experience from working with us. Someone might want to attend every meeting and every class that they can. They're going to volunteer for different committees. They want to take it all in. They want more than just the typical job or more than just the hours that they're going to punch in. And that's great. And I think other people, they want to punch in, do a great job while they're here, and then punch out. Both are totally okay as long as the expectations are being met in both scenarios. We really want to honor the experience that the person is looking to have with us. Because we talk a lot about, we're here to share a Zingerman's experience. That's the mission of our company. And that is whether you are a customer coming in to buy a sandwich or to have training with us, but it also means working here. Every person who works in our organization is having a Zingerman's experience, and they all want a different one. So it's our job as leaders, which again is all of us, to figure out what is that experience that people want. I think we can figure out the experience they want to have by engaging them. This means spending time with them, whether that's in groups or especially, I think very much especially one-on-one, just as we do our customers, to get to learn about their individual preferences. I think this is learning their preferences on the big picture of the work experience they want and on the small scale things. Examples can be like, how do they like to receive recognition? Are they someone who really likes public recognition in the middle of a meeting? Or do they prefer a handshake and a thank you? Is it a handwritten note? You can figure out how they like to begin their day or their shift. Are they ready to go right when they walk in? And so it's okay to start peppering them with questions as soon as they walk through the door before they've taken their bag off. Or are they somebody kind of more like myself who needs more of that mental runway before you start asking questions? I like to get to my desk and put things down and get settled. If you can figure out their preferences, we're going to be better able to give them great service because we're going to learn these different nuances that they have. And I want to share one of our favorite tools in this step. It's called the 10-4 rule. Many of you may be familiar with this. Again, if you've taken our service workshop before, or Emily, I know, sent out a really wonderful e-news earlier in the month when we celebrated 10-4 Day, which is October 4th. So 10-4 Day is a real thing, at least in our world. But the 10-4 rule, it is the rule that when we are within 10 feet of another person, we make eye contact and smile at them. And then at 4 feet, we verbally greet them. With external customers, this really helps bring the attention and the energy up to the people who are around us. We can make eye contact, we have that in to start a conversation, and this works beautifully internally too. When you walk around the office, instead of looking down or looking at your phone, like many of us can probably be guilty of, you're looking at your coworkers. You're seeing if anyone is looking back. And if yes, you smile and you say hi. If no one is looking up, that is okay. You can keep on walking. But what the 10-4 rule does, it creates moments of human connection that if we're walking around looking down, we appear closed off, that we don't have time for a conversation or time for a question. If your attention and your gaze is up to the people around you, you're inviting people to say hello. You're inviting them to ask questions, which can only lead to better service to your coworkers. And I think also by doing this, you're modeling how to do it for external customers. So if you're using the 10-4 rule with each other all the time, you'll start using it with the people who are coming in, whether it's to the office or to a retail store. And if you're using the 10-4 rule, it is proven that it will increase service and increase sales, because you're looking and you're making those moments to start those interactions. So, and I will say too, if your mind is going to social distancing, yes, we have modified this for the time being to be the 10-6 rule. So at 6 feet, we want to say hello. The space might change, but the idea really remains the same. And again, it is just that opportunity to make that connection and to say hello. And Emily, I see you popped on.
It popped in because I think Lori has a timely question.
Oh, great.
Wondering about bringing, so you mentioned the 10-6 rule. I know you just talked about that, bringing this to life in a virtual setting, not just from socially distanced. Do you have any tips for that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, well, in Zoom world, I think it is still, I mean, eye contact, your computer might only be like 2 or 3 feet away, but it is making eye contact with the people over Zoom. You can still say hello to them when they come on. I try whenever I'm in a Zoom meeting, if I'm the first one there, I try not to be looking down like this, writing something or looking at another computer screen. I try to be focused. So when Emily or Mara pop in, I'm there to say hello to them as quickly as I can. I'm guilty sometimes looking down, but then they say hi because they're using the 10-4 rule with me. So I think it's just making sure we're giving somebody our attention and our focus, even in that virtual world.
Totally. Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I love it. Under the second step, if we can do a good job of figuring out what they want, I think it allows us to get it for them. So we have 3 ways: accurately, politely, and enthusiastically. The accuracy piece, it means everything from writing accurate schedules for folks, meeting timelines, giving really accurate timelines to folks. I think that is key. Sometimes we might ask for something from a coworker and they might assume immediacy and they might throw out their whole afternoon to get me the data that I need or get the numbers to me. And then they send it to me and I'm like, great, I actually needed that for a meeting on Friday. And they're like, why didn't you tell me that? Like, I can give great service by letting people know when I would like to have things. Could I have those numbers from you by Thursday at 9 a.m.? That way they can still work on what they need to work on. If somebody asks for something from me, I like to respond with, when do you need this by? So I think the timeline thing internally is huge. And the more we can do that, just the better service we're giving to folks. The accuracy piece, it also just means, giving the right information about their pay, about HR functions, about safety issues. It can mean accurately knowing how to pronounce somebody's name or if they like to use a nickname that they prefer. A big piece of this accuracy too, it definitely means like completing your commitments when you said you were going to and doing it accurately. So not only the actual task, but the accurate timeline. We learned a horrifying statistic a couple years ago that the average CEO only does about 20% of what they commit to doing. like 20%. Can you imagine if an employee only did 20% of their job? They'd be fired a long time ago. So getting it for coworkers, I mean, it definitely means meeting those commitments or negotiating if we're not going to meet them, but it's not just letting somebody be like, oh, I hope they don't notice I didn't turn it in on time or get it to them. We want to make sure we're having those conversations. I would like to say getting it for them accurately, it doesn't mean we have to have all the answers, because we oftentimes don't, but we actively seek to find the answers when we don't know them. So it's not just saying, I don't know and hope you go find out on your own, but let me go find out for us, because I'd love to get the answer for myself as well. Because if I don't know the answer, this is an opportunity for me to learn something too. The being polite, I think this should go without saying, but unfortunately, I think it's really easy to let this slide, especially when we're tired or stressed or convinced that this particular staff person is on a personal crusade to drive us crazy. I've certainly worked with folks like that before, but remember, the service that we give to one another, it sets the bar for the service that they're going to give to our customers. If we are rude internally, I think we're implicitly modeling that it's acceptable to be rude to customers. So we always want to be polite in our interactions, even if we're in disagreement. Paul, another great phrase of his is that we can disagree, but it doesn't mean we have to be disagreeable. I think in our culture, in our society, this is not always the case right now, but in our worlds, in our departments, in our organizations, we can make that the norm, that we don't always have to agree, but it doesn't mean we have to fight about it or that we need to be rude about it. We can still be polite. So we can disagree without being disagreeable. The enthusiastically piece on this step, I think it's especially important and particularly important, but it also can be challenging. We all have bad days and probably a couple of coworkers that maybe we're not always crazy about working with them. So sometimes giving great service, it is an act. Like, we're on stage. So you may not feel delighted that, Timmy has requested another Saturday off, but as a service-oriented leader, we're still going to smile. We're going to be polite. We're going to do the best we can to accommodate the request, or at least let them down easily when you can't. And you might not overly love working with everyone that you do, but we still need to show we're happy that they came to work. I think when we use the 10-4 rule, looking for those opportunities to make eye contact and smile, this is a big piece of it. I think that rule alone can really show the enthusiasm that we're looking for. And going the extra mile, this doesn't have to be huge. This could be, the extra mile as we define it is doing something extra for someone that they didn't ask for, something that's nice. And this could be bringing a team member a favorite beverage when you know you're going to be seeing them, like you stopped and got coffee, so you get their favorite coffee. Handwritten cards and thank you notes are wonderful extra miles. Our managing partner, Katie, is great at sending cards. Oftentimes when we are all in the office, it's something put into our mailbox or she'll leave it on our desk. Since we've been working from home, she's been mailing them to us. I've gotten a couple cards, sent to my house, which for me has just taken it to a whole new level. When's the last time you got a thank you note mailed to your house? I think it happens so rarely. I have them, they're set up kind of behind my computer and I can look at them, and it's a great extra mile. And I think other extra miles, you can acknowledge a big event in a coworker's life as an extra mile, especially as you work with folks a lot on more than just a professional level, on a personal level. You learn those big moments. We had a coworker a couple years ago take a trip to Paris to drink champagne in Champagne. And it was going to be a really big moment. And many of us, we all chipped in to buy her a bottle on us when she was there. Just something nice and extra that we could do for her, because we know how much she had been looking forward to the trip. On a smaller scale, send an article that they would be interested in, or a recipe that you think they would like. You can know their favorite candy. You can take out their trash when you're taking yours out. Small things, but they go a really long way in creating a good work environment. A couple of our favorite extra miles at Zingtrain. It's very timely. Even though we're not in the office, we all hope to be back in the office sometime soon. I guess, who knows, but at some point we hope to get back there. When it snows in the wintertime, one of our coworkers, Timo, if he leaves before us in the winter, as he scrapes the snow off of his car, he'll scrape the snow off of all of our cars, and we love it. So when we walk outside at 5 o'clock and it's already pitch black in Michigan at that time, we don't have to scrape the snow off ourselves. Then we all scramble to make sure we park next to him, and we try to park next to him as often as we can, so he'll do it again, which is great. And our other coworker, Dan, he's notorious for, if he arrives to work a little bit after us and it's going to snow that day, he'll lift all the wiper blades up on our cars if we forgot to. So when we go out, we don't need to worry about trying to actually find the wiper, so we can actually get going again. So small things, but really great. Emily.
I'm popping in not with a question,
Yeah.
but just to contribute
Oh,
something.
please.
Actually, to this extra mile thing, we had there is also the idea of like keeping a file for coworkers, especially. So like with favorite candies,
Yeah.
favorite movies, things like that, that everyone has access to. So that if they're having a bad day or they're celebrating something, having that easily accessible for everyone can be really helpful too.
Yeah, our coworker Elnian has that. It's a spreadsheet. Yeah, what's their favorite candy, favorite coffee drink, their favorite
Yep.
bakehouse treat. So when it's their birthday, we can actually surprise somebody and not ask them, like, what do you want for your birthday at the huddle this week? We can actually just have it. So I think that's great. You don't need to memorize all of it and remember it because that's hard. Like, write it down, document it. I think that's wonderful. Thanks, Emily. I mean, all of this being said, these 3 steps in a perfect world, we would live them in every interaction with every coworker, but we're not perfect. We fall short of meeting commitments. Sometimes we deliver a not great experience. And when that happens, we use our 5 steps to effectively handling complaints. We use these externally with customers, but we also follow these steps when working through a coworker complaint with a couple of small tweaks, which I'll talk about. How we handle a complaint from a coworker, I think it says a lot about our organization. And we want to be able to give them the importance of a customer complaint. So when we're handling complaints internally, we absolutely want to acknowledge the complaint. This is to turn and give our coworker our full attention and our full face. So if we were in the office and I'm typing away at my computer and Emily comes up to me with a concern or an issue, if I continue to type at my computer and look down and she only sees the top of my head, I'm not really acknowledging what she has to say. So I want to turn away and give her my full attention wherever she might be, literally turn my chair and focus on her. If I'm continuing to be distracted, I'm probably not actually fully listening. So in the acknowledge piece, we actively listen. And our definition of active listening, there's many definitions out there. We like to say it is listening for content and not just waiting for our turn to talk. So we listen for content and not just wait for our turn to talk. If all I'm doing is waiting for Emily to stop speaking so I can start, I'm missing out on a lot of valuable information about whatever the issue might be. So I really need to actively listen. I need to show that we're listening by making eye contact, nodding our heads, repeating what they're saying, using phrases like, oh, wow, oh, gosh, oh, no, oh, gee. I mean, we like to, we're Midwest, so we can kind of get away with that sometimes, but you're just saying simple words and making eye contact to show you're actually listening to what they're saying. Then we sincerely apologize, and we sincerely apologize. Oftentimes that's in bold, and we really like to emphasize that. We apologize sincerely. Saying I'm sorry, it does not mean that we're accepting fault or taking blame for whatever the issue is, but we are truly sorry for whatever situation it is that we are in together. And be very clear, I'm not saying I'm sorry for whatever situation you are in. I'm sorry for whatever situation we are in. Because if a coworker, if an employee has a complaint, I mean, it's about the organization. It's us, it's we, it's not just you. So we say, I'm sorry. I think the apology goes a long way. People can feel your empathy for the situation. And even if we can't fix it, they know that we care. I think sometimes people can have a hard time with this one. They don't want to say sorry for something that they didn't do, or they think that they didn't do. But the apology truly is about recognizing there's a complaint and someone isn't happy. And I'm sorry that someone isn't happy about something that is happening in the workplace. I can always sincerely be apologetic about that. And I think too, it's a lot harder for the other person to stay actively angry when you are actively apologizing. And if you don't believe me, try it. I mean, saying I'm sorry, it brings the stress and the tension down almost immediately. I won't say that it goes away completely, but it certainly lessens. And when the stress and tension goes down, it gives us the ability to actually move on to step 3. The third step is to take action to make things right. If the coworker, if the other employee is still really, really angry, they're not going to hear anything that you're trying to do to make it right. So that's why we use those first 2 steps to lessen the stress so we can get into step 3. And I think this is another thing that sometimes we can get hung up on. It doesn't mean that we're automatically going to make it right for anybody, that if they complained first, that makes them the customer and I just must fix it. But I will do what I can to try to make it right. You know, if an employee forgot to put in a schedule request for, I mean, let's say in our world, like the day before Thanksgiving, which is a really busy day in retail and in food with all of the pickups, I can still acknowledge and apologize that this is a really tough situation to be in because they had wanted to see family or there was just something special going on that day they wanted to be a part of. I can then help them game plan a potential solution. Like, wow, I'm so sorry. We do need everyone on the schedule that Wednesday, but it looks like Jim might have the day off and I think he's planning to be in town. Maybe you could reach out to him. But you'll see, I didn't say, well, let me just take you off the schedule or I'll work for you, because that's not actually taking action to make things right. We want to do something that shows we're trying to help them out in that situation and not just saying like, tough luck, go figure it out. Or if Emily and I are in the office together and she doesn't like the music that I'm playing and she complains about it. Again, it doesn't mean she gets her way because she complained first, but I can do the first 2 steps and then we can work together to make it right. We can come up with a compromise. We can collaborate on a solution. Giving great service, it's not just about saying yes all the time. It's about working together to find solutions.
I heard my name and I just appear.
Yeah, I love it.
No, Danielle had a great question about any advice about other words for sorry that aren't sorry. I'm sorry. Do you have any suggestions?
I mean, you could use other words. We are big believers in the actual phrase, I'm sorry. I think saying like, well, I do apologize, it's very distancing. It's kind of keeping someone at an arm's length. If you care about someone or someone close in your life, if you did something, I think you would actively say the words, I'm sorry. And we think of folks that we work with as people who are important in our lives. So we say, I'm sorry. That's not to say it needs to be that way for everyone. I'm sure there are other words that you could use, but we're big believers in I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Hopefully that helps. I mean, if folks have other thoughts to it, if you want to put them into chat, might give Danielle some other thoughts as well.
Happy to share those.
So some thoughts on there too. I mean, I like Gwen, sorry for the inconvenience that it has caused you. We like to be very careful about not kind of using the you phrase in the I'm sorry. Because if I say to you, well, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry that you feel this way. That very much to me, if someone said that to me, it sounds like, I'm sorry you're talking to me right now. I'm sorry that this happened to you, not necessarily to me. So we tried, like, I would say, I'm sorry for the inconvenience, because I'm really sorry for the inconvenience. Hopefully that helps a little bit, but we don't want the I'm sorry to be, thank you, Gwen. Definitely not an attack. I love the saying it, but maybe try to take out the you so it doesn't sound too much like you did this. I see in there too, talk about women not apologizing at work. I wonder how these things can work together. It's a good question. Let me think on that for a while. Maybe we'll revisit it or something we can send out in the follow-up, because I think that's a really good point. That's a good point. Thank you, Patty. The next couple steps in here, the 4th step is to thank them. And then thanking them, it's thank you for letting us know. I think it takes a lot of courage and gumption to go to a coworker with a complaint. It can be a lot easier to kind of stew on it yourself, or even worse, go talk to all of your other coworkers about it. So when someone takes the effort to go direct, we want to thank them. Thank you so much for letting me know about it. If I don't know, I can't fix it. The 5th step of documenting, this is much more for external complaints. We don't document our internal complaints. Instead, we go direct, which is our policy for when there is a complaint, we go directly to the person we're having the issue with. I think a lot of times it's more tempting to go talk to everyone else about it. But let me tell you, and you probably know this from experience too, if I talk to everyone else about the problem, nothing is actually getting resolved. So I want to go directly to that person. We teach the go direct policy. So if a coworker comes to me with a complaint about someone else, before they go too far, I want to stop them and be like, well, wait, like, what did they say when you went direct with them? Often the response is, well, I didn't go direct. I just wanted to complain to you. So it can take a bit of redirecting them and coaching them to find the right words. But once they can, the issue can be resolved, more likely to be resolved than talking about each other behind their backs. And I think it's a bonus when we use these steps with each other. It becomes second nature that we use in almost all interactions when it's a complaint issue. We certainly follow them with our external customers. I think very honestly, it can seep into your personal life as well. My husband works in the organization also. And when we have a disagreement, I find myself using the 5 steps and he catches on and tells me like, oh, stop 5-stepping me. Like, you can't 5-step me on this, but I can't stop. It just comes out very naturally. And honestly, like when I use them, he and I move to resolution much more quickly. So there's really a lot of good power in these 5 steps. I mean, I want to encourage you to try them the next time you have a coworker or even a customer complaint, and then reach out to us. I certainly would love to hear how they worked for you. So kind of moving away from our definition and our recipes, I want to share a few more aspects of this. Another part of giving great service to our coworkers is to lead with positive energy and to bring positive energy to work every day. Energy is one of those things that it can be kind of hard to describe, but you know what it is when you feel it. You've all probably walked into work one day and your mood instantly improved when you walked in. You saw coworkers smiling, you heard laughter, there was lots of good work being done, and you like, yeah, I made the right choice. Like I came to work today. Like this is a great place to work. And conversely, you've probably gone to work and as you walked through the door, you felt like you just walked under a storm cloud and the air was dark and thick and stormy, right? Those are two very extreme examples of energy. And what you're feeling when you walk in is the organization's energy, and it's built on all of us bringing our own individual energy to work every day. And it's an expectation that we bring positive energy to work. It only takes one person to have low energy to bring everyone else down. And if you are the official leader, the manager, the owner, your energy plays an even bigger part in affecting the overall energy. So to give really great service to one another, we need to make the energy we bring to work as positive as possible. So how we work to bring positive energy is by learning more about it. We learned about energy from a woman named Anise Kavanaugh, and she taught us that we all have three types of energy. So the first is our physical energy. This is how we are physically feeling. I think we positively manage our physical energy by eating good foods and eating at the right time, getting enough water, staying caffeinated, getting exercise, not being seated all day, wearing comfortable clothes, wearing comfortable shoes. Really just managing our physical presence. The next type is mental or emotional. And this is when you are like just in a good headspace. I kind of liken it to where you just feel like things are clicking along, like things just feel right. I think things that help boost our mental energy can be things like journaling, meditation, exercise, calling a friend, spending time outside, spending time with your pets, spending time with or away from your children. I feel like almost everyone's mental energy has been put to the test a lot these past 7 months. So, much of what we used to do to manage our energy of spending time with friends, getting outside, going to the gym, that has been challenging. So we've all needed to find new ways and new things that help our energy. Because if not, we're probably going to have pretty low or poor mental energy, which is not great for anybody around us. So both of these physical and the mental energy, they create what Anise has called our vibrational energy. This is the energy that other people see in us. It's the energy that other people pick up from us. Are we the storm cloud that is coming in and it's raining over me and it's raining over everyone else that we come into contact with? Or are we the energy sunshine that is spreading positivity to those around us? The more we can focus on the first two of our physical and our mental energy, I think the better our vibrational energy is going to be. And we know telling everyone to bring positive energy to work, that's not enough. We can say the words, and that's certainly great, but we need to give people a tool to be able to really do it. So when we come to work, we use what we call the energy recipe. And this is a tool to help us manage our energy for each other, which in return is managing it for our external customers, which again will improve customer service. It will improve sales. It'll improve the overall vibe of the organization. So we're going to walk through this recipe and I encourage you to try it out with me. So just think in your head or write it down as we go through it. But the first step is to read it. So we want to read our energy. This is on a scale of 0 to 10, where 0 is negative, poor. Like not only am I not going to do any good work today, I'm going to stop anyone else from being in a good place. A 10 is much more positive, smiling, enthusiastic. Everyone's 10 can be a little bit different. I think there's a wide range of 10s. It might be a really excited voice and include a lot of hand gestures. Or it could be, I sat at the computer for 3 hours and I smiled the whole time because I was so productive. So everyone really does have that different 10. You might even have different versions of a 10 yourself, depending on the work that you're doing in that day or in that moment, or who you're working with or what department you're working with. So I think it's important just to know, what does your 10 look like? So I want you to take a moment right now and read your own energy. Where do you feel your physical and mental energy is kind of snowballing into that vibrational energy? What number would you give it? And go ahead and write it down if you would like to. The one thing I do want to note here, though, is that many people think that the person who comes busting through the door, arms flailing, moving more spastically, they think that's a lot of energy. And sometimes people will say, oh, well, that's an 8 or a 9, or maybe even a 10. And I would argue and say that that person's probably more like a 2 or a 3. They're the type of person, when you see them walk towards you, you actually want to walk away. That isn't the type of high energy that we're talking about. Having lots of energy doesn't always mean that it's positive energy. So this scale of 0 to 10 is that 0 much more negative, 10 being much more positive. The amount of energy that you have doesn't depend so much on, or that doesn't depend as much as the actual scale does in this aspect. So hopefully you have your number of where you feel your energy is right now in this moment. The next step is to vision it. A vision is a picture of success. So this is picking a point in time in the future and stating where you want your energy to be at that time. So let's say 2 p.m. Eastern. So we're certainly in the Eastern time zone. So this is like 2.5 hours in the future. You can pick if you're in a different time zone where you might not want to be, but it's a couple hours from now. And it's making a choice and saying, where do I want my energy to get to? If I'm at a 6 right now, by 2 o'clock, maybe I want to be at an 8. And I will give one caveat as you think of this number. We vision to maintain or improve our energy. We don't vision our energy down. That is not productive. We had someone once say, I'm at a 7 at the end of this workshop, I'll be at a 3. Like I had to promise that we weren't going to do anything terrible to them. So we really want to vision to maintain or to improve it. The third step after you have where you want it to be is to manage it. What are you going to do to be able to maintain or to improve or raise your energy? Something that I have learned, if I'm waiting for someone else to boost my energy, I just don't know how long I might be waiting. If the customers stopped asking this, or if my coworker would just turn down their music, or they would do something differently, I'd be in such a better energetic place. Well, I just might be waiting a really long time for that. I owe it to myself and to my coworkers to take responsibility for my energy and do something about it if I'm in a funk. You can do the things we talked about earlier. So, going for a walk outside, making sure you're in the right clothes, getting water, drinking coffee, all of that stuff. But I think a few more that work when we're in a time crunch, because sometimes we don't have time to go for a 30-minute walk or go for a run. You can boost energy quickly by, sitting up or standing up tall. You can take deep breaths. You can go outside for just a minute and get fresh air. That can change your energy. Ari, our other co-founder, has a really great tool he uses called SBA. And it stands for stop, breathe, appreciate. If we only have 10 seconds, we can take those 10 seconds, stop, take a deep breath, and think about something to be grateful for. And when you do, you think about whether, even if it's just internally, kind of doing the gratefulness or the appreciations, your energy will boost. Ari has built this into his routine before he walks through the back door of any of the Zingerman's businesses, because he will take that moment and do the SBA. Because if he doesn't and his energy is low, the moment he walks through the door, he will bring everyone else down around him. And if he brings everyone else down, the service we're giving to anybody, internally or externally, is going to go down. And then the fourth step is to repeat it, because it will change. We get really high energetically, but then work happens, stuff happens at home, we have a difficult situation come up. We need to be continually checking our energy. Because if not, and we're at a 5 or a 6 throughout the whole day, we're delivering a 5 or 6 service experience to everyone. And that certainly includes our coworkers. So energy, it is such a great tool to provide great service to one another. Following this recipe, coming into work with positive energy, it flows from us and to everyone else. And when we have more positive energy at work, I think we're having more fun, we're more approachable, I think we're more productive, and we're giving better service to the customers. A couple more tools. All of what we talked about just kind of boils right up to this next piece of giving great service, which is to help your coworkers succeed. And again, this might seem obvious, but a lot of organizations kind of start with the belief that we hire people so the employees can help the business be successful. At Zingerman's, we like to flip this. We hire people in order to help them be successful, and we really put our focus there. Because truly, if all of the employees and the people we work with are successful, the organization is going to succeed. So what this looks like, we start with giving really clear performance expectations. If you are the owner or the manager, this can be making sure that those expectations actually exist. What do you expect out of somebody in their first week, in their first month, in their first 90 days? Do they know what success looks like for their job? If you are a peer or more coworker, this is making sure that the new person knows where those expectations are, where to ask for help when they don't. There was a Gallup organization poll released many years ago, but I do believe it's still relevant and we certainly believe in it. Then it interviewed over 1 million people. I think 80,000 of them were managers in their jobs. And it asked what kept them loyal and happy in their positions. And the number one answer was, do I know what is expected of me at work? And it's been very shocking to me as a trainer how often we'll hear stories of people being hired into positions and then kind of left to sink or swim, or given a stack of materials to read and parse through themselves because they were never actually told, like, what is expected of me? What does success look like in this job? I think it's crucial to document clear performance expectations and not just have the unspoken expectations that we often have in our heads. I'm certainly guilty of this. It's so clear in my mind what they should be doing and what they should be doing and when, but I've never actually told anybody that. I think that's true probably in professional and in personal life. We need to get those expectations out of our heads. And if we don't share them, we're not giving anyone a fair chance to actually meet them. And that's not great service to anyone. And then, of course, once we give clear expectations, we need to give training and resources that will set them up not only to do their job well, but ideally we want to position them to grow and learn beyond their current job. I think people learn in different ways. We need to find the best way to support each person we hire and work with. So if somebody might work best by reading materials, someone else might be better hands-on, someone does a combo. We need to figure out what it is going to be that best supports them. And even if you are not an official trainer, my guess is you still have a part in their training. So when you see them on shift looking unsure or sitting at their desk looking confused, are you stepping in and offering help? Are you getting them the resources if they don't have them? And I would guess that yes, most of you likely are, but do you teach all coworkers to look for those moments to step in and help with clarifying expectations or offering training support? And if you don't, I mean, imagine if you did, how much more supported would everyone feel because everyone was reaching out and asking if they needed anything. And in return, how much better the service to our external customers would be because everyone would feel really supported internally. Part of helping staff succeed is also providing feedback. If we aren't telling people what they're doing well and where they can make improvements, people will start making it up in their minds, what they think you like and what they think you don't like. People work more effectively and efficiently when led with appreciations and positivity. So we always want to keep that in mind. But at the same time, it can't always be sunshine and roses. There was a study recently that talked about healthy working relationships where 4 parts praise to 1 part criticism, and that the 1 part was actually really important. If all someone hears is praise, they actually stop hearing it. It actually becomes meaningless or kind of that white noise. The constructive feedback really needs to be there too. And the constructive feedback is there to give course corrections, to show that we care about someone's performance, to give thoughts on how to improve. I know for myself, when I get feedback, I have a belief that it's because the other person cares and wants me to improve and get better. If they didn't care and they didn't say anything, that's when I would actually start to get concerned. Another tool on here too is something we've learned in the past, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 years, something called the belief action cycle. And this is something that has really changed the way we work at Zingerman's. And we want to give credit to Bob and Judith Wright from Chicago. We learned about it from them. They don't remember where they learned it from, but they've given us permission to share it. And it's one of my favorite tools. The idea of the belief action cycle is that we all have beliefs. We're not born with them. We learn them from our environments, our culture, our parents, our school. There are 3 types of beliefs: positive, neutral, and negative. If we have negative beliefs, it's likely to bring about a negative outcome. Neutral beliefs will bring about a neutral outcome. Positive will bring a positive outcome. It is basically impossible for a true negative belief to bring a positive reality. So this has been really impactful for a lot of us at Zingerman's to think about our beliefs and how they may be influencing not only our actions, but how they influence other people as well. And to recognize our beliefs, it plays a big part in helping someone else succeed. So I want to walk through an example that maybe many of us have faced in the past. I certainly have. Let's say someone who currently works in your organization is leaving their current role and going to be joining you in your department. And through working with this person, maybe the past year or so, or possibly longer, you don't think they're going to be a good fit. You're not excited about this move. You're not excited about to work with this person. You don't believe they're going to excel, and you just don't think they're the right fit. This happened to me, and I'm not proud of it, but it did happen. And it certainly was a learning experience for me. Someone who, when I worked at the Roadhouse, someone who worked in the road show, which is the silver teapot that's out front. That's where we serve coffee and a lot of the to-go food, so you can drive up and grab it. They were going to be leaving their position there, and they were going to become a server inside the restaurant. I didn't overly enjoy working with this person. I thought she was a little snarky, could be kind of rude. I kind of thought she made a lot of mistakes, even though I didn't actually work out there with her to truly see it. That's just what I had heard. She never overly stepped up to help or did a ton of extra on the job, and we just didn't have a very strong relationship. So this cycle begins at the top with my belief. I believed that she shouldn't move over to the inside, that she wouldn't make a good server. And quite frankly, I kind of started to believe, why does she still work here anyway? Now imagine how, if I have this belief, imagine what that did to my actions towards her. When she became a server, I kind of gave her the bare minimum attention. I didn't want to spend that much time with her, so I didn't go out of my way to see if she needed help with anything. I didn't check in with her a ton during her training. If she had a confused look on her face, I mean, maybe I would approach her, but more often I probably didn't. When she would ask questions, I might answer them, but I'm not going to go out of my way to provide a lot more detail. I certainly didn't turn and give her my full face or give her my full attention in those moments. Now imagine what she started to believe when she was on the receiving end of my actions. Like, Joni doesn't really have time to train me. She doesn't like me or want me around. I guess it isn't okay to ask questions because I'm not really getting the answers anyway. This whole thing about having a positive culture and the concept of servant leadership, I guess that's just talk. No one really lives it. Maybe I'm not a good server. Maybe no one believes in me. And as she believed this, imagine how it impacted her actions. She didn't engage with me. When she had questions, she wouldn't ask them. She would go to someone else. She wasn't volunteering to do extra work, especially if it was something I was leading. When she was in the weeds, she just stayed there, and because she believed it wasn't okay to ask for any help. And when she took all of those actions, all she did was reinforce my original belief. See, I told you she wasn't going to step up and do more. I knew she'd make a bunch of mistakes and that she wasn't very friendly. Told you she wasn't the right fit for the job. Like, we can be stuck in this cycle for a very long time, and we're often waiting for the other person to change their actions. In this case, if she would have joined a committee or spent time talking with me, I could have changed my belief with her. But go back to that cycle. Why would she ever want to do that? I wasn't very nice to her. Look at how I treated her. What this cycle has taught us is that we need to take responsibility for the situations we're in. And while it can be hard to change my beliefs, what I can change is my actions. So even if or imagine if I took the same scenario and I acted towards this person like they were going to be a good fit, that they were going to be the all-star. I would invest time and energy on them. I would go out of my way to answer questions, to be a support. They would begin to believe in themselves, to believe in me, in our values. Changing my actions can totally shift the entire reality. And I'm not telling you what your beliefs need to be or should be. I mean, of course not. But I would suggest when you find yourself getting frustrated with somebody for not getting it, or consistently doing something you find irritating or just not fitting in, take a moment to reflect and consider your beliefs. How might they be playing a role? Can you change your actions? Can you make the conscious effort to shift your actions to be able to change this reality? Because if we're truly here to help staff be successful, to give great service to the staff we work with, that begins with having positive beliefs in them. And I just want to say, this is one of those tools that I've found to really transcend work or transcend professional life. I find myself in belief action cycles all the time, whether it's with my husband, with my family. I have been in a deep, very personal belief action cycle around remote learning. I don't know if anyone else is there right now. I have a second grader and a kindergartner, and we're learning from home 5 days a week. And I could admit to having some hardcore negative beliefs as we were leading up to it, just about how learning from home would work. I knew, though, if I believed it would be terrible, my actions would show how terrible it would be. My kids would pick up on that. They would believe it was going to be terrible. Their actions would show how much they hated it. And then I would just throw my hands up and say, see, I told you this was going to be terrible. Like, I had to check myself and my actions, the words I used to talk to them about learning from home. Now, I will say, is it going perfectly as we're 6 or 7 weeks in? No, but I do think it's going a whole lot better than it might have gone if I would have stayed kind of in my negative funk about it. And my homework or my challenge for you, if you choose to accept it, I want you to think about a negative situation you're in. And I want you to go in reverse through this cycle. So if you are in a kind of that negative, poor situation with another person, with a coworker, think about their actions and ask yourself, what beliefs might they have that are impacting those actions? And then what actions or what beliefs do they have? And then kind of keep going back. What actions are you taking that is causing them to believe that? And then why are you taking those actions? What beliefs might you have that are impacting those actions you're taking? Once you know that, make a conscious effort to shift some of those actions to something more positive. You can see where and if a change occurs. I think you will be pleasantly surprised at the impact that this cycle can really have. Belief that we love the belief action cycle. If you want to know more, certainly reach out. Ari wrote a whole, I want to say it's like a 500 or 600 page book all about the beliefs in business. And this is just a small taste of it, but I think this one has a lot of power and impact on the realities that we're in. A couple of additional thoughts as we wrap up our time together and then hopefully get a few questions. The first one on here is to not hold a grudge. I think it's great service to not hold a grudge with the people we work with. I think a lot of the world continues to carry them. Our experience here is that grudges get you absolutely nowhere, or at least nowhere good. They just suspend us in an angry, unproductive past. It can poison the organization. It can poison ourselves. People screw up. We do. I mean, I screw up, employees screw up, but the past is the past and it's over. If we are committed to giving great service, we need to commit to taking a more forgiving approach. And this doesn't mean that you don't hold firm on agreed upon consequences or that you completely forget what happened in a situation. It just means that we're going to look forward to and work towards a much more positive, mutually rewarding future rather than let ourselves get locked in to an old grudge. Holding a grudge is just freezing someone in time, and that's not great service to anybody. The next one is to cut the gossip. I know gossiping can be good fun. We all probably been guilty of it. I think, but it's fun for maybe about 5 minutes, until you find out that someone overheard you say something, or you realize that you were the person who was being gossiped about. Sometimes you talk yourself into that poisonous corner. It's hard to work your way back out of. So do yourself and do the organization a favor and just stay away from the gossip. And when you hear other people doing it, try to stop it. We can be the ones who set the course. And if you hear people doing it, just say, I really don't think this is benefiting the organization. Come talk to me about it. As a manager, come talk to me. We can come up with a way that you can go directly to that person. So don't gossip. Keep in mind that giving great service is also giving great service to someone's ideas and to their creativity. We don't want to be the bottleneck to their thoughts and to their creativeness. We want to help them get their ideas to the right people, if that isn't us, because sometimes it isn't. How we respond to someone sharing their ideas often sets the stage for if they're going to share again. And we have a belief that the more ideas, the better. But if we cut people off, and we say, no, I don't want to hear that idea, they're probably not going to come to us, and they might have a really, really great one. But even if it isn't a great idea or it isn't one for right now, just make sure that we respond graciously or positively so they want to come back with more, or give them more tools for how to flesh out their ideas a little bit more, and then come back again. And lastly, something that's just been top of mind at Zingerman's, as Ari just released his latest pamphlet, is the idea of humility and humility in great service. I think the absence of humility is often very clear to see. The leader takes all the credit when things go well. When things don't go well, they punt all the blame. I think truly giving great service is leading with humility and knowing and believing that success is built on the team, not any one person, especially yourself. So it's not taking the credit, but sharing the credit with all. Ari just did a webinar a couple weeks ago with an author, John U. Bacon, all on the topic. It's on our website. I highly recommend taking a listen. It was a great hour spent learning from Ari and John, how they've internalized it and how they teach humility to other people. Mara also put in the pamphlet if you're interested. It's a great read. I could not recommend it more. I really, really like it. And I want to end this part as we move into more questions. I would, again, just encourage you. There's so many little things that we just talked about, little tools, small tools, that when you do them, they can build up to something much bigger. You can begin to do them, and it really does contribute to the culture. Doing one or two small things every day, or even one thing every week, it can really make that shift in the culture to show that we really do prioritize what great service is to each other. So I'd love to check in now with Emily to see what questions there might be.
I'm back. Yes, there are a ton of questions here. So we are going to try our very best to get to them. I know Joni just mentioned a lot of different resources. Mara and I have thrown those in the chat, both a link to the pamphlet, a link to the humility webinar, as well as a link to the book, Power, Beliefs, in Business. All of those right now are 25% off with the code Community 2020. If you're watching this later, it might not still be there, but right now it is. So great. So we have tons of questions. I'm just trying to pull them up here.
And if we can't respond to them now, we'll respond to them over email later.
Yes. All right. So do you have any guidelines, Jensine wants to know, that we shoot for on team size or tactics that we give managers for how to take time to do the 3 steps and the 5 steps? So are there,
any guidelines for time? I don't think there's a guideline, because sometimes we might use the 3 steps in a 2-minute interaction with an employee. And then sometimes we might use them in an hour with another employee. So if that was kind of the question, I don't think there's one particular time frame that we use them. I think it's figuring out what they want and how long it might take to actually get it for them and then go the extra mile.
Totally. Great. Okay, I love the go direct idea. I'd encourage a lot of people to do this. However, I have a coworker, I think a lot of people can relate to this. I have a coworker who can be very hard to approach and is also in a position of authority. Do you have any advice for helping people go direct when you know that they might be lashed out at, regardless of how tactful they might be about their approach?
There's lots of thoughts on that. We have a 2.5-hour workshop called Courageous Conversations that really dives into this a little bit more. And it gives 7 steps for going direct. I do think, just very quickly on here, a couple of them, I think it's approaching it and trying to set ground rules ahead of time. Let's say Emily and I had a problem and she's the coworker who would lash out, which would never be Emily, but because she's on the screen, I can say that. I might say to Emily, would you be willing to sit down and talk to me about this? I know it's going to be awkward, but I'd love it if we could both share our points of view and then work towards resolution. If Emily did start lashing out, it might be where I would say, I'm so sorry that this is happening right now. I don't think we're in the right headspace to be able to continue on. Could we revisit this tomorrow? Because if the person is defensive and lashing out, they're not going to hear anything that you're saying. It's probably actually going to get worse. So maybe it's knowing when to cut it off, but then continue to revisit it. Listening to their point of view often helps in the situation as well. And then when you need to, get help from somebody else. Have a mediator who steps in, not someone who's going to take either side, but really how can they help the conversation move forward rather than staying stagnant?
Yeah, absolutely. Another scenario question here. I really like these. Positive energy is something I strive to bring to work, but I seldom am met with what I perceive as positivity back from my coworkers.
Yeah.
It feels service work is done by only half of the organization. How do you recommend encouraging those hard to change behaviors in team members, or do I just need to learn how to accept it? And if it's the latter, are there any exercises we can recommend to help prevent energy drain?
Okay, so a couple questions in there. One, I think you can't change everyone's energy as much as you want to. You can help influence it. If I can see Emily is in a low mood, maybe I'll bring her a cup of iced tea, which I know she really likes, or a glass of iced tea. So you can help improve it. But if she wants to stay in her funk, she's probably going to stay in her funk. But I think a couple of tools. You can help teach them, or you can teach them the energy recipe, because many people aren't even aware of what their energy is and what they're doing to it. You can brainstorm ways to improve the energy on shift and really listen to the things that they say, because then maybe you can slip a cookie on their desk, or they might need a couple extra time. So I think you can do things like that. And then I had another thought. Oh, it's, sometimes it's having your protective bubble, that if I let everyone else's energy infiltrate that bubble, my mood is going to go down and I'm not going to give great service. So I need to even more so manage my physical and emotional energy, so that way I can continue to give vibrational energy. It can be extra exhausting on some days, but it's the work that I'm making a choice to do, because it's all a choice. I'm choosing to put that hard work in so my energy stays high, so I can give great service to the people around me.
Yeah, I also noticed you use the word bubble, which I think many of us are familiar with these days.
Oh yeah, we all have
An energy bubble. It's like just another bubble to think of.
your energy pod. No, yeah,
Your pod.
it's definitely an energy bubble. Your energy barrier, if you will. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And I looks like I want to be mindful of folks' time. We are at the top of the hour. There are a few questions, wonderful questions left. We will get back to you with answers here in the days to come. But I am going to wrap things up, and I want to thank everyone for such great questions, such great dialogue in the chat. I know we sent a lot of links there in the chat. A few things we're going to follow up with the recording and the slides here in the follow up. Joni, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Today and your stories. And I think that's it. If you have any questions for us, feel free to shoot us an email at zingtrain@zingermans.com. We would love to continue the conversation. And yeah, I guess I would say look out for the resources here in the next probably 24 hours or so in your inbox.
Yeah. Great.
Cool.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye. Thank you.